Hey everybody, it's Josie. Welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. Well, and as you can tell, I'm in the house today. It is so hot outside that I thought I would go ahead and record this in the house. And every time I go out on the porch, the air conditioning unit kicks on out there, and it's just kind of miserable out there. So I thought you guys would pardon me to be in the house one more time, bringing this to you. We're in the throes of mama mode with the chickens. I don't know why they chose the hottest part of summer, but I've got about 5 broody chickens, and I've already had 3 or 4 within the last month that have decided to set and hatch off nest of babies. And so you go out in the barnyard and there's mamas with little babies everywhere, teaching them how to scratch and cluck cluck cluck, and here the little ones come running, and she does her thing and scratches, and then the little baby scratch. It's really cute, but like I said, I don't know why they have waited until now, but for some reason they have, and I'm hatching off new babies all the time. I've got just 1 duck left. I thought that I didn't have any, but just here the other day, one of the female Indian runner ducks come out. I don't know where she was hiding, but she's sticking pretty close to the chicken yard now and staying in with the chickens, making sure she's sticking pretty close to them. And I probably won't add any new ducks until next spring, and then I'll try to figure out what ones I really want, and hopefully by that time I have a better enclosure and think about different ways to do things. I really like to let them free range. We enjoy them, so they go down to Papa Texas a lot, and they like to throw feed out to them, and they have visitors down there all the time, and they really enjoy the ducks. So I hate to keep them pinned up all of the time, but it just might be something that I have to do to be able to keep a duck flock. But anyway, I have 1 little duck that'll hopefully go through the fall and winter and be here next spring, and when I can bring some more little ducks into her family. So today I thought we'd talk about friendship a little bit, and the kind of friends that we should be surrounding ourselves with. Now hopefully all of you have a very good support system around you. You have good friends that are loyal, friends that are on the same page as you are. Sometimes it's hard when our friends and our family members don't support us in the things that we are trying to do as family, or you as an individual. And I have people all the time on my the comments section of my videos that I put up saying, that they have a spouse or their children or whomever it happens to be doesn't support them, is not standing behind them, and that they're really having a hard time and a struggle because they feel an urgency and they sense this need to to stock and to put back and look well to the ways of their pantry, and they just don't have any support. Well, it got to me to thinking about who we need to surround ourselves with, and it's harder when it's family members that aren't encouraging you, because ideally you're not going to go and say, well, I'm going to go get new family members. We hope and we pray that our family stands behind us, or that we can present our plan and our idea with gentleness and with and have clear thoughts, and be able to give them our ideas and our thoughts on why we're working the way that we are. When I was a kid, when I was in high school, this new girl came along, and she lived out by me, and we lived out in the country, and she lived not too far from me, and I just, for some reason, I was really drawn to her. And she she just seemed like a really nice girl, and she had it all together, I thought. And she just seemed like the cool kid. And for some reason, my mom did not care for her. She didn't care for her at all. And I would my parents held a pretty tight rein on me when I was growing up, and we didn't go unless our parents said we could go. And there were a few times that I was given permission to go with her. But it didn't take long after those few times. And my mom began to put her foot down and say, you're not going with her. Now my little sister was friends with her little sister. They went all over together, stayed the night with each other and did all kinds of stuff. But my mother absolutely put her foot down on this friendship that I had with this other girl. And I couldn't understand. I thought, what is the what is the reasoning behind this? She's fun. She's a happy person. She's a fun person. She's outgoing. All the things. I was not an outgoing person. I had friends, but I was quiet. I've always been a more reserved person. And she brought out my personality, I thought. But my mom was able to see that she was bringing things out in me that weren't good things. I'm not going to talk about her as far as, what kind of person she ended up being. But she ended up not being good for me. And my mom saw it ahead of time. And my mom, like Barney Fife would say, she nipped it in the bud. And I didn't understand it at the time. Looking back on it now that I can see the big picture, and we're like 30 or so years removed from that time. So it's so hard to admit that you've been out of high school for 30 years, 31 years. But anyway, looking back on that now with life experience, I can see why my mom put the kibosh on that. And, there were times in Blaze's life that he was growing up. Now, he went to a small rural school and had a very close-knit group of friends. But there were always times that we were kind of cautious until we knew for sure this new friend that had been introduced to the group. Not that we didn't want them to be friendly, not that we didn't want them to be welcoming, but we wanted to make sure that we were directing him in the best possible way that we could. That's what I kind of wanted to talk about, is with friends like that. The Bible is full of stories of friendships, good friendships and bad friendships, and relationships that we can learn from. Today I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about Job. Now you can go to the Old Testament and you can read the book of Job. You can read from the beginning of his story all the way through, and all the things that happen with Job. And those of you that don't know, it's J-O-B. It looks like Job, but it's pronounced Job. And it tells the story about him and how he was a good man and loved God and served God. And one day there was a conversation happening between God and Satan. And God said to him, "Have you considered my servant Job?" Well, Satan said, well, you've got a hedge around Job, and that's why he serves you, because you've got this protection. Now, this is Josie paraphrasing this. You can go and read for yourself what it actually says. But anyway, God let the hedge down to allow Satan to come against Job. God told him, said, you can do these things, but you cannot touch Job. So some things happened in Job's life, all in the course of a day, one day. His servants, the Bible tells us that Job loved his children, that he offered up sacrifices for his children, and he desired his children to have a relationship with the Lord. And so we know that he definitely loved his children. The first servant comes to Job on that awful day and says to Job, the enemies came and they took your donkeys. They killed your servants except for me. A little bit later, the next servant comes and the servant says, a great fire came and burned up all your sheep. All your sheep are killed. Your servants are dead. I'm the only survivor. The third one came. Again, enemies came in. They took all your camels and they killed your servants, and I'm all that's left. Now, we're not just talking about 20 camels or 30 sheep or 50 donkeys. We're talking about hundreds of each of these animals. Hundreds. So that was a pretty big financial blow. It would be a financial blow to me. It is a financial blow to me if I lose any of my cattle. And I've experienced last week or the week before last, I think it was the week before last, I lost a cow. And then just here the other day, I lost a calf for no reason, no explanation. You know, he wasn't presenting any kind of illness like pneumonia or anything like that. He just, you know, he was fine, and the next morning he was not. And so that's a financial blow to me. So Job had experienced this big financial blow all in one day. All of this livestock is wiped out, and his servants. But the most horrific news is yet to come. Here comes a servant to Job. He says, Job, your children were all together, your 7 sons and your 3 daughters were all together at the oldest brother's house. And this wind came up and collapsed the house, collapsed the place that they were at, and they're all dead. Now, most of us would have thrown our hands up and been, that's it. I give up. I quit. Job, yes, was tore up. Yes, was in agony. Yes, was in pain. But he never questioned God. He never pointed his finger and said, why, God, did you do this? In anger, did he ever do that? Satan and God were talking again. And this time, God allowed Job's physical body to be touched. He couldn't kill Job, but his physical body could be touched. And so what happened was Job broke out in painful boils from the soles of his feet all the way to the top of his head. The Bible tells us that he sat with broken pottery and scraped those nasty old boils. No doubt they were painful from, his hands, his face, his head, all over his body, the Bible says. Scraping it. No medication in that day. Along comes his wife. His should have been closest friend and ally. His encourager, his strength. All the things that you would hope that a husband and wife were to each other. Howie was my greatest physical inspiration and strength and my best friend. And I hope that you have that kind of relationship. But here she came. She didn't offer that to Job. She said to Job, again, I'm paraphrasing, curse God and die. Get it over with, basically. And he told her she talked like a foolish woman. So that helped, that friend, that comrade, that person that you expect to be your leaning post, your strength, that was a fail. Along came his friends, 3 friends, and they sat with him as he sat out there in ashes, and he took care of his wounds, and he no doubt cried and lamented and prayed, and I don't know, I can't imagine screaming and just falling apart over the death of his children. Loss of the other things were great loss, yes, financially and being physically sick in his body, but the death of his children. And they sat with him, and they did a good job. For 7 days, they were there for him. They listened to him. They comforted him. They didn't speak. They were there for him. But when that 7 days were over, they began to talk. Job talked, and they talked. And it's all there in Job. You can go read it. Back and forth, they had this conversation. They would put things out before Job. Well, you must not have been as good. You must have sinned. Your children must not have been all they were supposed to be. These things his friends were throwing out there in front of him. There when they were supposed to comfort and they were supposed to be something for him to lean on. You know, his wife, she missed it. Now here's his friends, and they're missing it too. All of this. And you can go on and read the story, how God moved and how he moved towards the friends and how Job got involved with that, and how God ultimately blessed Job because he didn't fail. He didn't turn his back on God. He didn't desert God. He didn't blame God. And God ultimately blessed him and restored unto him the things that he had lost. And that's a great story. That's a beautiful story. But one thing that brings to mind is making sure who your friends are. Identifying those that are around you. You know, this day and age, we have to be really careful with who we have around us. You know that saying, you can't soar with eagles if you're surrounded by turkeys? Well, you know, what does the eagle do? An eagle's able to soar and get above it all. But a turkey can fly some, but a turkey can't fly like an eagle can fly. And I have to admit, I love my turkeys. I do. I love my turkeys, but they are dumb, dumb, dumb. I have seen them walk a fence line trying to get out of the chicken yard or to get into the chicken yard. And all they had to do was go just a little bit further, maybe 2 or 3 more steps, when the entire flock is already out enjoying the morning breakfast, and that turkey is walking back and forth, and all they had to do is take a few more steps and go out the door. And they spend an hour pacing back and forth and back and forth. They are not the brightest bulb in the box. So be cautious of who you have around you. You have dreams, and you have goals, and you have things that God has put into your heart. And if you tell the wrong friends, they're not going to be there to encourage you. They're going to try to squash those dreams. You don't need those kind of friends. You don't need friends that every time you try to share something beautiful and meaningful, they're there just to squash it. You need people that are encouragers. You need people that will listen to your plans, listen to your dreams, and dream with you, hope with you. It may not be their dream, but they can hope with you that your dream comes to fruition. Have you ever been around somebody that no matter what you say, the person is just down on everything? You put something out there, they have something negative to say. Someone else says something, they have something else negative to say. They never are a positive person, ever. And this person that I have in mind, I have never seen them be an encouraging person to anyone. They go to church, they call themselves a Christian, but they are not an encourager. They are not one to lift other people up. They always see the bad side of things, and they feel like it's their job to reprimand and to try to steer someone another direction. And you don't need that in your life all the time. You don't need somebody that's constantly wanting to scold you, constantly wanting to show you the error of your ways. That's not good. So we know we don't need people that are discouraging. We don't need people that always want to punish or to scold us. We don't need people that will be a dream squasher, somebody that just steps on your dreams, steps right in the middle of them, you know, just like they're stepping in a big mud puddle, and that mud and stuff scooshing up through their toes, and they just mush it in just a little bit more. You don't need friends like that. You need to surround your people with people that surround yourself with people that are encouraging, people that will say, you know, I don't see the dream, but I'm going to pray with you and believe with you for your dream. You need those kind of people. You need people to get in there that have the same ideas that you have. You know, it's hard to prepare, and it's hard to look well to the ways of your household, and it's hard to do the things, put plans into place for your farm or your homestead or whatever it is that you're doing. Even if you live in town and you're trying to get an emergency plan together, or whatever the case may be, if you have somebody that's constantly saying that's dumb, that's stupid, you don't need to do that. You're being a scaremonger. You're being a hoarder. I have heard so many times, you're a hoarder, you're a hoarder, you're a hoarder. I don't feel like I'm a hoarder. I feel like I'm looking well to the ways of my household. So I continue to prepare. Don't be easily persuaded to give up. You know, you've got a plan. We've talked about it in weeks past, to get a plan. We've talked about last week refocusing. We need to stand our ground. We've got our plan. We know what we need to do. We need to be a good friend to other people too. Surround yourself that are good friends to you, and then you be a good friend to others. Be an encourager. Be one that can be gentle and able to, you know, be a wise counsel to someone. You don't always have to scream at them. You don't always have to say, that's the stupidest thing. Gentle. Be gentle. And you can present something in a way that they'll hear what you're saying, even though you're quiet, even though you're being gentle. They'll hear it better than they'll hear somebody that's screaming over the top of them. You know, one of the things that we talk about, especially in the farming and the homesteading communities that we've been building here on YouTube and other places, we talk about having a group of people, you know, of like-minded people. And one of the things that you need to think about with those people is, what kind of friends are they? Hey, it's good if they've got supplies. It's good if they've got a way to have water, and they've got, you know, they've got a tractor, and they have all these other things that we look for in prepping people and people that can help build a community. But you better be looking at whether they get along with others. Are they quick to stab other people in the back? Are they quick to gossip, and are quick to tear others down? Because those are problems in a stressful situation that you don't want to have to deal with. Those are things that you want to shy away from. You don't want people that's going to just, you know, go along with everything, go along to get along. But you do want people that are willing to compromise. And, you know, maybe their idea isn't taken 100% of the time, but your idea is probably not going to be taken 100% of the time either. Just because, you know, you give in a little bit doesn't mean that you're weak, doesn't mean that you're feeble. It just means that sometimes you know that the important thing to do is to compromise. Another thing that we need to be aware of is sometimes people come into our life for a season of our life. They're not always going to be there. They come into our life because there's something that we're going to learn from that person, that we're going to draw strength from that person, or we're going to, you know, gain knowledge from that person, or they're part of the plan for our life. Maybe they're going to help facilitate whatever the dream is, whatever the goal is. And then that person moves on. Sometimes when they move on, our heart hurts because we love them so. And there's not anything we can do about it. Sometimes a person needs to go on, and we need to not keep holding on to their shirt tail trying to pull them back. Sometimes people are moved out of our life, and that's a good thing. We need to learn how to recognize when it's time to let the friend go. That seems harsh, I know, because we love our friends and we want to hold on to them. But sometimes it's best to say, it's time for them to move on. It's time for me to move on. And allow new friends to come into our life. Well, it's safe to say with friends like Job had, it would make you shy of having any other friends in a tragic situation. We don't want to be that kind of friend. We do want good friends. We want those that'll stick with us, that'll be with us through thick and thin. So let's pay attention to our friendships. Let's build on our good friendships. And let's work on getting away from those relationships that can be considered toxic. Those things that, those relationships that can sour us on things and make us cynical and make us afraid to share our dreams and our hopes. We should be able to share with our friends and them love to hear what we have to say. And we should embrace them and be a good friend to them as well. Listen, guys, we're going to need friends. We're going to need people to be encouragers in this time that we're living in. Encourage one another, lift one another up, pray for one another. We have a job to do, and we're not done yet, or we'd be out of here. And so let's be a friend to one another, and most importantly, let's be a friend to God. I know people laugh at that, but we can be a friend to God. We can live for Him, and we can win others for His kingdom, and we can press on. Let's look well to the ways of our household. Let's be a good friend. And until next time, guys, this is Josie. I love you guys. I really do. We're gone.